Welcome to the Golden Gems podcast. Today we're taking a deep dive into Chevy Chase, examining how the man who defined modern comedy ended up dismantling his own mythology.
And I think we have to begin at the end, really, with that CNN documentary from January 2026, I Am Chevy Chase and You Are Not.
Right.
Because our sources make it really clear the conversation around him isn't about, simple nostalgia anymore. It's become a full-on audit. A forensic examination.
And the moment that just went everywhere, the viral clip, was that exchange where he tells the director, Marina Zenovich, that she isn't bright enough to understand his calculus of survival. I mean, when you hear that, what is that? Is that self-preservation or is it just hostility?
It's both. It's a refusal to play the game. The sources call it the defensive posture of a sovereign individual. He's basically realizing that the same industry celebrating him now is the one that consumed him 50 years ago.
A declaration of independence.
A very hostile one. And you have to remember the timing. This documentary drops less than a year after the SNL 50th anniversary special.
Where he was practically a ghost, a non-speaking cameo. And Bill Murray, the man who replaced him, is sitting at the Weekend Update desk.
Exactly. That snub, whether it was intentional or not, it transforms the documentary. It's not just a reflection. It's a final hostile testament. He's burning the whole thing down on his way out.
Okay, so to understand that ending, let's go back to the very beginning. The architecture of his humor.
You have to.
He's born Cornelius Crane Chase in 1943. And this is not some working-class kid makes good story. His family traces back to the Mayflower, the social register of New York. This is American aristocracy.
And that's the absolute key to his comedy. I mean, satire usually punches up. The outsider mocks the powerful.
But he was the powerful. He was the authority.
So he punches sideways. That famous detachment isn't rebellion. It's the bored, privileged mockery of someone who's already on top.
Which explains so much of his early life, right? Getting expelled from Haverford. The sources don't call it failure. They call it behavioral incompatibility with structured subordination.
He just couldn't stand being told what to do. And you see that defiance in his stage presence. By the time he's in Lemmings in '73, he's already got the persona locked in.
6'4", leading man, good looks.
But with the delivery of a corporate executioner, totally detached. He's not the neurotic Woody Allen or the explosive John Belushi. He's just cool and imposing.
But even before SNL, he's laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
On shows like The Great American Dream Machine.
And the National Lampoon Radio Hour. He was already doing this meta-comedy where the medium itself, television or radio, was the actual joke.
Our sources call it sonic arrogance.
It's a great term for it. He sounds smarter than the device you're listening on. He's already mocking the whole enterprise.
Which brings us to SNL and what the research calls the contractual Rosetta Stone.
Right. So Lorne Michaels hires him first as a writer.
But his contract is the only one in that first season that explicitly connects the writer's room to the stage.
And that is everything. That is the source of his structural power. He wasn't just another performer, he was part of the machinery. It gave him an immediate leg up on everyone else.
So let's talk about that very first episode. Before, live from New York, what happens?
The pratfall.
The pratfall. And it's not an accident. It's a calculated, violent assault on his own body.
It was a stroke of genius. He understood that in a post-Watergate America, people wanted to see power fall down, literally. And he, this perfect image of lost authority, made himself the vessel for it. Comedy became visceral.
And the Gerald Ford impersonation is the perfect example. It was completely inaccurate, technically speaking. Ford was a gifted athlete.
Didn't matter. It was spiritually precise. He stripped a presidency of its dignity by making the most powerful man in the world someone who could be taken down by a staircase.
And Weekend Update was his command center for all of this. That sign-off, I'm Chevy Chase and you're not. It's not a catchphrase.
No, it's a statement of fact. It's establishing a hierarchy. I'm up here, you're down there. It's unbelievably arrogant, and it worked perfectly.
And that arrogance, that breakout stardom, leads directly to him quitting after just one season. The single most controversial decision in SNL history.
Everyone saw it as pure ego, right? Career suicide.
But what do the numbers say?
The numbers say it was a cold, rational market calculation. He's making, $750 a week at NBC?
While Hollywood is dangling multi-million-dollar movie deals.
He saw that the show was built to consume its talent. By leaving at his absolute peak, he preserved his own value. He became the first sovereign individual of the media age. He refused to be an employee of the machine.
And it worked. He basically invents the comedy movie star. The idea that a comedian could be a romantic lead, an action hero, everything.
Foul play, Caddyshack. The gamble paid off. but it came at an incredible cost to his legacy.
The alienation.
Total alienation. That backstage fistfight with Bill Murray says it all. Murray was the ensemble, the mission. Chase was the mercenary, the individual. That's the schism right there.
He won the game of capitalism, but he lost the game of legacy.
And you see that play out in the work. Caddyshack in 1980 is Ty Webb. That's the fantasy version of himself. Wealthy, bored, effortlessly cool.
I mean, he was famously too cool to try. He improvised almost all of it in just a few days on set, and it's magnetic.
But if Ty Webb is the fantasy, Clark Griswold is the nightmare.
Starting with Vacation in '83.
And Griswold is brilliant because he's not an incompetent fool. The comedy comes from his desperation, his burning need to force the world to conform to his idea of a perfect family vacation.
And when it doesn't, he just snaps. That scene in the car where he's screaming at his family, it's a real breakdown, just played for laughs.
The absolute peak where it all comes together has to be Fletch in 1985.
The perfect vehicle. An investigative reporter who lies for a living. It let him be a dozen different characters.
And that steak sandwich scene is a masterclass. A forensic study in status transaction.
Right. He walks into this pretentious country club.
And just dismantles the whole system by out-absurding it. Just put it on the Underhill tab. It's pure Weekend Update confidence, just stretched out for 90 minutes.
But then the tide starts to turn. Even by Three Amigos a year later, you can see him struggling with that ensemble dynamic.
And the audience's taste was changing. They're moving away from the cold irony of the 70s and 80s towards something more sincere.
And he just refused to adapt. He doubled down on the arrogance, and you get these spectacular bombs like nothing but trouble.
He was a monument to an idea of masculinity that was just evaporating. And at the same time, his body was collapsing.
The sources are brutal about this. The forensic reality is that those pratfalls destroyed his spine.
He was absorbing the kind of impact trauma you see in professional football players. He literally traded his vertebrae for laughs year after year.
Then there was the electrocution on the set of Modern Problems in '81. It led to severe depression, a reliance on painkillers.
The man who got famous for falling down could barely stand up without help. Checking into the Betty Ford Center in '86 was the inevitable result of his own performance style.
And all that chronic pain is what creates that difficult genius reputation.
It made him impossible to work with. So when he finally gets a comeback on Community in 2009, Art is imitating life in the most brutal way.
He's playing Pierce Hawthorne, an aging, out-of-touch bigot who is tolerated by the group but never loved.
Chase saw the character as a cage. He felt the writers were mocking him.
Which leads to the constant friction with Dan Harmon, the infamous leaked voicemail where he calls Harmon an alcoholic.
And it's framed as the lash out of a man who felt he was being mocked by the scripts he was paid to perform. His exit in 2012 wasn't a departure, it was an exile.
So we come full circle. Back to that SNL 50th anniversary snub in 2025, the ultimate punishment, being ignored in the house he built.
And yet, you can't erase the legacy. It's undeniable. He invented modern news satire. Full stop.
Without him, there's no Jon Stewart, no Stephen Colbert, no John Oliver.
He was the first person to look straight into a camera and tell the audience that the news itself was a performance, that it was fundamentally fake. He became the very thing he set out to satirize.
Which brings us back to that final admission in the documentary. He's asked about regrets.
And he looks away and he just says, I regret that I cared so much about not caring.
And that's it, isn't it? That explains everything. The detachment, the arrogance, it was all a suit of armor.
An armor that rusted shut and trapped him inside. Which leaves you with this one last question that the source material poses.
Yeah.
Is it possible that the man who spent his life pretending to fall down was actually the only one who knew he was falling the entire time?
Thank you for listening to the Golden Gems podcast. We'll be back next time with another deep dive. Until then, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep celebrating the power of uncompromising voices.